Sitaram, once more welcome to SWA DHARMA, carried exclusively on Sankhya TV on Thursdays from 6:30 p.m. to 7 p.m. SWA DHARMA, where we share information on Sanatan Dharma, paying special attention to its universal teachings regardless of one's religious persuasion. For today's program and subsequent programs, for a short while, we'll be focusing on bhakti, on devotion. Bhakti, it's the highway to God. And when one treads that highway, one finds that life finds its true meaning, and as far as one's purpose is concerned, there's a better understanding of it when one is on that highway to devotion. That highway constitutes nine lanes, as it were, metaphorically speaking. And we touch on those 9 lanes on the highway of bhakti here with the quotation: Shravanam Kirtanam Vishnu Smaranam Parasevanam Archanam Vandanam Dasyam Sakhyam Atma Nivedanam. And so now we proceed to explain the 9 lanes of that highway of devotion. If any one of these 9s are practiced by the individual, that leads to moksha, liberation. Some of the renowned devotees of Bhagwan, of God, have all 9 at the disposal. So we examine in detail and see how we can mold and shape and pattern our lives so that we will be able to tread on that highway of devotion. So first form of devotion, the first lane, and here when we say the first lane, it does not go necessarily in order of importance. Any one of those lanes on the highway of bhakti will give one or will help one to realize his or her goal of uniting with their maker. So first we speak on Shabanam, where one becomes excited to listen to the exploits of Bhagwan, of God. Secondly, there is Kirtanam, where chanting his glories with love is the pastime or the occupation, at least the partial occupation during one's life, where one engages in chanting bhajans and religious songs and so forth. And really the heart is very much involved in those singing, in those renditions. When we said earlier, Sharanam being excited to listen to the exploits of God, basically from a Sanatan Dharma perspective, we are talking about satsang, where one keeps the company of the holy. Smaranam, where remembering him with a degree of regularity, not only when there are crises in our lives and challenges, especially before taking major decisions in life. That is Smaranam, that is an expression of devotion, of unconditional love for God. Fourth, Parasevanam, where we serve his feet, and serve his feet by carrying his message, by propagating where the word of God is being recitated, for instance in yajna, puja, etc. Lending support to such occasions is one facet or a major facet of Parasevanam, of serving his feet. Fifthly, Archanam, one which we are fairly familiar with, performing puja, offerings made to Bhagwan. And as we have often spent little time to point out, that when puja is performed, it's not merely the offering, it's the accompanying mantra and the accompanying meaning. And this is what we mean by offering. It's just offering in a vacuum, as it will. Then sixthly, Vandanam, where compositions, stotras or stutis, as the case may be, are either composed or recited by the individual with that unalloyed love for Bhagwan. In these stotras and stutis and bigger prayers, as it will, the glory of Bhagwan, lessons and messages are passed there and glorified. So it's different from just offering a short prayer. It's those stotras and stutis. Stotras and stutis which at some point in time the individual should make part of his or her prayer. It doesn't necessarily have to be on a daily basis, but possibly on a weekly basis. That's a good start, but we include them in our prayer. Then comes seventh, Dasyam, which is where we are his servant. And that is exemplified by when we are down in the trenches helping the dispossessed, the destitute, those who genuinely need help to be pulled out of whatever pit of darkness they may find themselves in. When we reach there, when that cry for help comes, we are actually doing the work of Bhagwan as a das, as a true servant, highly regarded in 9 forms of devotion, the 9 lanes of devotion. Then comes number 8, Sakhyam, where we regard him as a friend. Many times we have Bhagwan, God up on a pedestal, that is acceptable and that is protocol, but there are times too we have to bring him at the level where we regard him as a friend. And what happens there in that relationship, it facilitates the understanding of our situation, it provides comfort, it provides inspiration, exemplified in Sanatana Dharma by the relationship with Arjun and Bhagwan Krishna. And 9th form of devotion, Atma Nivedanam, where we realize that the part and parcel of God which is in us, which we identify as a Jew, when it becomes we make it aware that there is a connect between the individual soul and the Supreme, then that Jeev is now termed Atma, and we make our endeavors to feed it, give it spiritual food, where we connect the Atma with the Param Atma. So these are the 9 forms of devotion. Anyone practiced or anyone striving to get on any of those lanes is really the ticket out in life. We speak of devotion as being a highway, but there are other pathways to Bhagwan. Naturally, from the reference, a highway leads one quickly, faster to his or her destination. A pathway or another tributary road will also get one to their destination, but the highway is the fastest way. And so this is identified, and we turn to Aranyakand in Ramayana. We just tarry a while to explain. Sometimes we use the references, and from time to time we need to point out where those references come. Ramayana, quickly, is made up of 7 chapters, for want of a better word. There are 7 Kand, or 7 expanded sections of Ramayana. Aranyakand is the 3rd, and so it basically deals with the majority of Bhagwan when he volunteered himself into forest life, into exile. And in that Kand, it stated, Dharmate Viditi, that from the practice of Dharma and mastering of Dharma, one gets Viditi or Vairagya or dispassion. And dispassion is a pathway to God. Yogate Jnana, and from mastering the practice of yoga, one gets Gyan. And Jnana Moksha Pradabedvakana. Gyan is also spiritual wisdom, is also a pathway to God. And this pronouncement is by the Lord as Sri Ram himself. He says here, Jati Begi Dravau Mai Bhai. He speaks to Lakshman, he says, O Bhai, O brother, the one that melts me, really and truly, that roadway that melts me, so mama bhakti, bhakti sukadai, is devotion, unconditional, unalloyed, unadulterated love for God without an agenda, without an ulterior motive, though that ulterior motive might be legitimate. But when we go to him just to establish that deep connect, that is bhakti. It is difficult to describe bhakti in phrases and catchments, but suffice it to say, it's along these lines we are talking about when we speak about bhakti or devotion. And Sri Ram says that is the one, that is the highway, that's the one that melts him. Dharma is riveted, as we know, the 4 pillars of Dharma. They are truth, cleanliness of both body and mind, compassion and charity. When one has mastered this is where we get Vairagya, a pathway. We talk about yoga. Yoga being defined as being in sync with Bhagwan. It will involved in, if we are talking about yoga, is the holding of the breath and sitting asana. That is one interpretation of yoga. Then we have the yogas exemplified with queens of Emperor Dasrat, spiritual wisdom in the form of Kaushalya, karma in the form of Kaikeyi, Sumitra in the form of devotion, and then of course we have Raj Yoga. And the mastering of these yogas leads one to Gyan. Gyan, as it says, Gyana Moksha Pradaved Bakhana. Gyan is a very important pathway to Bhagwan. Dispassion and Gyan are pathways. Shri Ramchandra went on to point out, because sometimes it seems a bit of ambiguity sets in here, that if we are saying Gyan, which is spiritual wisdom, which is wise in the ways of God, wise in interpreting his exploits, his examples, his interpretation of challenges, then why should not be the highway to Bhagwan? And Sri Ramchandra pointed out also in Uttarkand of Ramayana, Gyana Agama Pratyuha Aneka, that Gyan, though it's a pathway, it is riddled with obstacles. To get spiritual wisdom as a start, one needs to get access, a guru. And sometimes it may not be, he may not be easily accessible because of public commitments, urgent matters, etc. So it could be a process and not a quick answer situation. And that is why Shri Ramchandraji says it is beset with, the pathway of Gyan is beset with hurdles. And sometimes the solution to matters needs to be given relatively quickly, and it may not happen. So this is what is meant, that it is still a pathway. Bhakti undergoes no such challenges, no such obstacles. So having spoken briefly about that highway, how do we get on the highway? We ask ourselves. Where, as we have said, that getting on that highway lends meaning to life, lends purpose to life. And that highway leads to the Supreme. Here we have a picture of the Virat Swarup, as we often use the God of one's liking and understanding. In Sanatana Dharma, it is but one God, the infinite, manifest in finite form. So we have a better concept, a better understanding of He who is infinite when we see and observe His finite parts. So in the Virat Swarup form, we are talking about God, the God of our liking and understanding. And this is the end of the destination of bhakti. And once we are treading that highway, His light shines at us, shines upon us. And that's where we make the connection. Then life has its meaning, life finds its purpose, etc. So to get on this highway, it's, metaphorically speaking, we have to climb a ladder. And that ladder too has 9 steps, 9 rungs in the ladder. And now we'll allow continued explanations from the Holy Ramayana, and we turn to Sivri Katha, known as Shabri Katha sometimes because she came from the Shabanam clan, a hunting tribe among other things. And Shabri soon realized that this was not the purpose of life, to belong to the hunting, to have a hunting pattern or join in hunting animals in life. She quickly realized that. How did she realize that? As destiny would have it. You see, once the fire for bhakti, of devotion, is struck inside the heart, things happen. So she had that deep urge to get meaning to life. And as in one of their trips, the Shabara trips out on hunting, she strayed. And she, of course, became thirsty. Higher up the stream, not too higher up, the great Rishi Matang was also quenching his thirst after performing his morning ablutions and taking some sips of water. And as the water trickled down, that Jutha, as we say, as we are familiar with, she also inadvertently partook of the water, quenching her thirst. And the Chaupai says, Daras pras majan rupana, hari pap ka ved purana. Ramayana says that the mere sight of a holy person, daras, paras, by the touch of their revered feet, majan, having bathed in the conversation, the spiritual conversation that we may have with them, and Pana partaking of their leftovers. Hare Pap, these are remedies to remove sins. Kah Ved Purana, the Vedas and the Puranas have so declared. Sin, of course, being identified as that act which creates discomfort with our fellow man and the environment. We hasten to add, so if we are regular in prayer and at a certain time and one day for what some inadvertent reason we run late, that's not sin. We don't make God uncomfortable. It's just the how the cookie crumbled that day. So we have to be careful when we're talking about sin. It is simply making when the child offers a harsh response to the mother, when the Shishya disciples disobedient to the Guru, when there's disrespect to the elders, we make them uncomfortable. This is sin. Even hewing the big trees of the forest, that creates an imbalance in the atmosphere. We create discomfort to our fellow man, eventually to all living beings. That is sin. And the Shri got the opportunity to clear herself of that life, so she strayed, and as destiny would have it, she came upon the ashram of that great sage known as Matang. She was a bit restrained to meet Matang, as the Katha would have it. She observed what was going on in the ashram, and while Matang Rishi took the time off early in Brahma Muhurat to perform his ablutions in preparation for prayer, she would sneak in, clean up the ashram, pick flowers, and run and hide away again. Matang Rishi, being a clairvoyant as he was, because of his spiritual development, realized that this had to be a devoted soul. And as time went on, he confronted her in a most humane way and then allowed her to stay in the ashram. And in this ashram, he said that destiny has called me to serve other purposes. There are 14 spheres in Sanatana Dharma, in the world, in universal concept. And so I have to move on, says Matang Rishi. But I will not have the opportunity to see Bhagwan, but you, because of your devotion, will meet him. Such was the love of Shri for that great Rishi Matang. What evoked his blessing, we see even when he departed from the ashram and she was left behind. When Sevri heard the words of a guru, she was convinced that that will come to pass. His wishes and blessings will come to pass. So every day she would make preparation as though God, Shri Ramchandra, will enter the ashram on that day. And this went on for quite a number of years, where there was no hesitation. She will pluck the flowers and she would prepare or have in readiness whatever fruits that might be in season, and have them ready in case the Lord, or when the Lord would drop by, so she'd be able to feed him. She created a carpet each single day, every day, of carpet of flowers as he would walk to the ashram. We are just required to offer one flower, a single flower, a singular act to God. We are just required to do that to get a good footing on the rungs of those ladders to the highway of devotion. Sevri made a carpet of flowers, not once a week, not once a month, not twice a week, not twice a month, every single day. And it was done with love. And this is so when we reach with our little one flower or more, preferably in the puja room, if we could just remember Sevri Katha, it was never a job, it was never a burden, it was steeped in love. If that is the approach of us into a prayer room, and make that the approach of us into a prayer room, then we are getting somewhere. We are somewhere around the foot dust of that great devotee of Sevri. More than that, Tulsidas ji wrote 50 odd Ramayans, in addition to Manus Charitra, Tulsi Manus Charitra, all depicting various facets of Ram Katha, of the exploits of the Lord when he came as Shri Ramchandra. And declared in one of those is that it went further to describe how Sevri prepared the pathway, that carpet she laid down with flowers. Before she laid the flowers down, she would remove the old flowers of the day previous, and then she would bare her back and roll on the ground to ensure that if there were any thorns or pebbles that would create injury to the Lord, at least her back would absorb it. And that is the type of love she had. So when she did receive Shridam Chandra and accorded him, along with Lakshman, a most hospitable welcome, just for the sake of the history, at this point in time, Sita Devi was already abducted by Ravan. Shridam Chandra, though concerned, highly concerned about being bereft from his spouse, he took time off because devotion is the highway. With all his personal challenges, he took time off to pay a visit to Sivri, because devotion is like a magnet. It attracts God. Just as so Bhakti Sukada in the previous quotation, it says he melts with devotion. So in the course of his conversation, this is God talking here. He says, Pratama Bhakti Santan Karasanga. That he declared that there are 9 steps to devotion. And so the first step on that ladder to get on the highway of devotion is to keep the company of the pious. Because such company, there are immense benefits. God, it is declared in Bhagavad Puran, will make 24 stool avtar, 24 manifestations in each round of creation. We have gone past 23, the 4th is yet some time to come. So what happens in the interim? Are we going to be left out of that glory of having his physical appearance? No. He appears in the dream, he appears in the vision of an innocent child. Sometimes we feel his presence by the crises which we are pulled out of. And keeping the company of the holy, they are representatives. Santan Karasanga. The pious are really representatives of the God, of that supreme God we talk about. And keeping their company, it helps to endorse, to put us on the highway of the sort of teachings that lends meaning and purpose to life. The pious will tell us that even before, on a daily basis, before we even reach the prayer room, as the water, as you go to take our shower, to make preparations for the day, as the water hits the head, Guru Gita declares, Guru Gita is a conversation between Parvati Mata and Bhagwan Shiva. And it is declared there, Guru Parambujam Smritva. This quotation was made earlier in an earlier program. We're just reiterating here that once from the time the water touches the head on a morning, just bring the feet of Guru to mind, the feet of one spiritual mentor, and not merely the feet. The feet represents the teachings that emanate from keeping his company for X amount of time. And if we were to take one of Guru's teachings and bring it to mind at that point in time of impact of water on the head, at the time of showering on the morning, that is equivalent to visiting or to having a bath in a tirtha, in a pilgrimage. And it is said that when one takes a bath in a pilgrimage, one is absolved of the wages of so much sin. So even before reaching the prayer room, we can grab at these opportunities, simple maneuvers. It's part of our daily routine. We're not going out of our way. It just calls for, if possible, the recitation of a short mantra. If not, the idea behind the mantra. Bring one of Guru's teachings to mind. It could be the same teaching over and over, but we want to make it part of our life. Fair enough. But bring a teaching of Guru to mind. Spending company with the pious, with the Gurus, we learn these things. Then, even before we step into the puja room, so we have performed our ablutions and we have washed the hands and so forth. And we just look at the hands, and this too was a previous quote. We quickly, Karagre Basate Lakshmi Karamadye Saraswati, that if we look at the palm of the hands in the morning and focus that on the tip of the fingers lies Lakshmi, at the middle of the palm of the hand lies Saraswati Mata, and at the base of the palm of the hands lies Brahma. and know the connection between remembering this, that may I make my day prosperous, O Mother, by your graces, Mother Lakshmi. May my speech, O Mother Saraswati, be such that it doesn't pain anyone, and I bow to Brahma at the base of my hands. May my day be creative and innovative. Further, keeping company with the pious. And there's not a disconnect with the Ramayana or with what God came and the exploits of God and daily life. So keeping company with the pious will tell us that, as we were speaking about the finite parts of God, one facet of that is Rahu, the Graha Rahu. He, to cut the chase as it were, the history of it, he qualified to have a say in everything the Devatas did because of the Amritam which he was privy to or partook of. And so each part of the day, they are governed by the Grahas, and the Grahas have positive and negative effects because they are the dispensers of karma. The Grahas are not bad nor good. They are dispensers of our karma, but most times you'll find that Rahu will be the one who causes a little impediment here and there, and he got an hour and a half each day to govern over. So it is known as Rahu Kal, and every single day we'll run this quickly through, but this is across the board. Every single day there is an hour and a half period which we should avoid beginning anything, more so things of consequence. Start a little before or start after. Avoid this time. Sundays, 4:30 to 6 p.m. And this is provided sunrise is 6 o'clock. If sunrise is 6:10, then it'll be just around 10 minutes, 4:40 to 6:10. If sunrise is 5:45, then quarter past 4 to 5:45. So just make an adjustment. If there is any difficulty on the website, well, we have worked examples. So back to our schedule here. And this is the time to pay attention to, because this time we might have gone on to the beach and decide to get ready to leave home. Leave a little before, leave after, if that is practicable. Mondays, 7:30 to 9 a.m. Interesting. Most times that's the time when we beginning journey, or maybe beginning journey to go to school, to go to work, to run errands, and so forth. Try and start the journey a little before 7:30. Tuesdays, 3 p.m. to 4:30 p.m. Wednesdays, noon to 1:30 p.m. Thursdays, 1:30 to 3 p.m. Fridays, 10:30 a.m. to noon. And pay attention again, Saturday, the day we run most of our errands, try to read before 9 or after 10:30 a.m. And we do these things, we find there are less challenges, less hurdles, more fruit born from whatever undertaking we have set about. And we have just spoken on the first step of devotion, of the highway of devotion. We continue as the programs go on for subsequent weeks. Once again, coming to you exclusively on Sankhya TV. May the God of one's liking and understanding keep them in good stead and help to get everyone on the highway to devotion. Sitaram.